Today I'm going to show you how to live code an SVG in the browser using Slingcode. So we're going to do this without any frameworks. We're just going to do it in pure HTML and JavaScript and CSS. And this is a nice quick way of doing some motion graphics in the browser. So we're going to start by going to slingcode.net, and then once you're there you can click on Try It to load the editor. And we're going to go down to the bottom right hand corner here and say New App, and then we're going to go File, Save, and you can hit Control S or Command S to do the same thing. And then we're going to open a new panel here running the app, and once it loads up you can see this hello world, which is this text here in the code. And so the first thing we're going to do is set the title of this to live coded SVG. Right, so we're going to grab, inserted an extra S there. We're going to go to this page, SVG Element Reference. So if you search for this term SVG Element Reference and MDN, you'll find this page. And this is just a list of all the HTML elements that make up an SVG in HTML. Alright, so we want to get let's draw a circle. Let's start with a simple circle. So we'll click on this circle tag here. As you can see, simple little definition of an SVG with a circle tag inside to draw the circle. So let's copy that one, and we're going to replace our main div here with that code. Now the indenting's gone slightly wonky, so you can select that and press Control square bracket to move the indenting around, and then we'll hit save. And we see this big circle that's filled up the entire viewport. So what we're going to do is change this viewport. So at the moment it's 0, 0 up here to 100, 100 down here, but I want to change it so that 0, 0 is in the middle, because it just makes the maths a little bit more intuitive. So I'm going to put minus 100, minus 100. So we're going to change that corner to minus 100, minus 100, and then I'm going to make it 200 wide and 200 high, and we'll hit save. So now our circle, the center is at 50, 50, which is here now, and the radius is 52, so 50 also. So it takes up this entire quadrant here. What I'm going to do is move that into the middle and make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to make it radius of 20 and put it in the center here. And if I hit save, you see it jump into the middle there. Let's also, we're going to do some planets here. So let's change the background color so it's a bit more spacey. We'll give that a background color. This is in the CSS definition of the body here. Give it a background color of 333. So get this nice gray here. Next we're going to add a moon. So let's take our circle definition and copy that one. And we're going to put it slightly to the right here of this existing body. So it'll be a moon that orbits this main planet. So our center X we're going to move to 40, because that has a radius of 20, so we want to put it outside that. And we'll make it a bit smaller, we'll make it 10. Okay, so that's our first little planet hovering off to the right there. We can also give that a color by changing the fill. So we'll say orange. And let's also give it an ID so that we can manipulate it later. So we'll say planet ID of planet 1. So we've got our simple little two-body system here, our main planet and our little moon here, little orange moon, which I've called planet 1. Maybe I'll call it moon 1. Okay, so now how do we animate this? We're just going to do some basic CSS animation to get this moving. So we say moon 1, and we're going to give it a animation name of orbit and animation duration. So it'll take 5 seconds to orbit the main body, and we'll say animation iteration count infinite, because we want it to go on forever. Now we haven't defined this animation yet, orbit, but we can do that easily with the keyframes directive. Keyframes orbit, so we're creating a new set of keyframes. We're going to say from, and what we're going to do is apply a CSS transform to rotate this around the center. So we'll say transform, rotate 0 degrees to start with, and then we'll say 2. So we want it to go from 0 degrees, transform, rotate 360 degrees. Right, let's save that and see what happens. There we go. You can see it's got a slightly wonky orbit here where it actually accelerates and then slows down. So that's nothing like a real body would behave in space. So to get it a little bit more realistic, we're going to say animation timing function linear. And there's a bunch of different timing functions you can look up. If you look for CSS animation directives, you should be able to find the different types of things you can put in all these positions. And we'll hit save on that one. Now you can see it's got a much smoother linear type of animation all the way around. It never pauses. We could make that faster by changing this to 2 seconds. Or we can make it slower by changing it to 10 seconds. But we'll put it back to 5 for now. Cool, so that's our first little moon orbiting the planet. Let's now go ahead and copy that, paste it to create a new moon. So we'll start this one at -70. So we'll put it a bit further outside, but on the other side. And we'll give this one a radius of 5 to make it smaller. And we'll make it red. And we'll give it an ID of moon 2. So let's save that guy. All right, so here's our second little moon. As you can see, that's not orbiting yet, but we can actually reuse the same animation as the first one. So we'll copy this and paste it in. Let's re-indent that, say moon 2, and let's make this one move just a bit faster. It'll take 4 seconds to go around. So now we have 2 bodies rotating around the main body there. So that's pretty cool. You can also draw other types of CSS elements, of course. If you look up this reference table, you've got things like path. So we can copy this path here that they've got that draws a heart shape, and we can actually just stick that one straight into our SVG definition here and hit save, and we see this big heart floating in space. So that shows you some of the power of what you can do. You can look up how to draw these paths, but basically you've got move and then drawing lines and curves. So we'll delete that one for now because we've got our nice little 2-body planet system here. So the last thing I'm going to show you is how to make something happen when you click on one of these elements. So these are the basics of making a simple game if you wanted to, for example. So I'll make something happen when you click on this moon number 1. I'm just going to re-indent this code here so that it's a bit easier to read. So this is our moon number 1 circle, and I'm going to add a new directive, a new attribute here, which is onClick. And let's first just throw an alert so we know it's doing something. So I'm going to say alert high. I'll save that one. Now, what that should do is when we click on our orange moon, it should alert high on the screen. There we go. You can see this message high. So that's pretty cool. We know now that we have interactivity going. So let's make it do something. Instead of alert, let's make it call a function blip, and we will pass the object into the callback. So it's going to call a function called blip. Right now that function doesn't exist, so it won't do anything. But what we can do is create a new script tag here. So add a script tag, define a new function called blip, and we'll have P for a reference to the planet. So what that's doing is when you click on the orange one, it's going to pass this, which in this context will be the thing itself, so this circle, into this function. So P will be the thing you clicked. And now what we can say is add a class to this. So we can change the type of animation that happens. So we can say p.set attribute class to blip. Now, of course, we don't have any CSS defined for that class. So we'll have, if we wanted to do something, we'll have to add some CSS here. So let's create that class and say fill blue. So what this should do now is turn that circle blue when we click on it. Great, works perfectly. Just save again to reset it. Let's try instead setting an animation. So let's say animation name. So we'll keep the orbit animation and we'll add another animation which will be fade. We have to put important on this to make sure that it overrides the existing animation orbit here. So now it's going to apply 2 different animations at once. We'll copy these keyframes here and we will make them, we'll make a nice little fade here, fade animation. Now we're going from and to, instead of transforming with the rotation, we're going to change the color. So we're going to say fill, we're going to start with white, and we're going to go to black. Let's save that. Right, so now what should happen, when we click on our orange ball, it should run the function blip. Blip sets the attribute of class on that to blip, which then applies this CSS here and runs the animation fade as well as the animation orbit. So let's see if that works. Perfect. So what it's doing is we've clicked it and it's fading from white to black. Now, of course, we've got a linear fade here. An infinite iteration count. So it's just looping through white to black over and over and over again. But it'd be pretty cool if after the end of the animation, it resets back to how it was. So we can click it again to see the behavior again. So what we're going to do here is have a set timeout. And that's going to, when after 3 seconds, wait, how long is our, okay, so it's got a 5 second loop in the animation for moon 1. And after 5 seconds, we want to reset it. So we're going to say set timeout, call this function after 5,000 milliseconds, which is 5 seconds. And what we're going to do is just actually set that animation at that class to be nothing again. And that will reset it back so that it's not running the fade anymore. It'll undo this bit. So let's try that. This time it should go from white to black and then back to orange once it's done. And there we go. It's back to how it started. Now we can click it again and the same thing will happen. Yeah. So that's basic motion graphics and some interactivity using an SVG in the browser. I hope this helps you build some of your own animated SVGs. Thanks for listening.